further ado, please help me welcome Alex.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. All right.
Yeah, let me stay over
It's
here.
all your show now.
I think I have a mic on.
Yeah. Oh,
So
duh, you do.
yes.
He has a mic. He doesn't need this. He's got this.
Well, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Well, I am so honored and humbled to be in all of your presence right here at the factory and to talk about rhythm. So when I was asked to do this talk this morning with you all, I thought, what should I talk about with rhythm? And the question that came to mind to ask a rhetorical question, and maybe you can not allow it to remain rhetorical at the end when it's Q&A. But what is your rhythm? And then the second question is, how are you playing? And so that's my center of thought this morning. And also, when I thought about rhythm, I start to reflect immediately when I was probably about 6 years old in a small town called Manchester, Georgia. Anyone knows where Manchester is? I will be really surprised. It's about 5 minutes outside of Warm Springs, where FDR has a little white house that he, because of polio in the Warm Springs that was discovered by the Creek natives, and they built a rehabilitation center around it, and he has a white house. Well, we're just 5 minutes outside of that. That's where I was born and raised. One of 8 children. I'm in the middle. I'm the fifth child. 5 boys, 3 girls, 2,500 population, 2 traffic lights, and limited opportunity. But in that small city, I discovered something that I wasn't sure I was discovering at 6 years old. But I gravitated towards the backyard of our neighbors who had buckets in the backyard. And I took those buckets and I started to make them my drum set, but it was missing something. It was missing cymbals. So I discovered the tin pans in my mother's kitchen from the pie crust, and I took that became my cymbals, but then I was missing something else. It was the drumsticks. It was the pine tree branches that fall into the ground and would peel off and make my drum sticks. My other brother, innovation, was the creation of his first guitar from the rubber bands from the collard greens. They were orange then. And those rubber bands, 2 of them were strung, and he created the 4-string bass guitar. And we took a table that you would set the folding tables, and they would be like the green bottom and tan, and we put it on 4 different blocks, and we made our stage. So this was our innovation. This was our creation. But as we continued to grow and really gravitate toward this thing that we discovered to be music, I was the drummer and singer and the timekeeper. And I would try and sing and play at the same time. And then a brother who's a little bit younger than me started to gravitate towards the drums as well. And so I taught him, and then I was able to be out front. But one thing I would always be on him about when I'm out there singing, and then it's something that we would call skipping the beat, right? Like not keeping good time, And he's like, what happened, And so I would like turn around and say, Alonzo, stay on the beat. That was one understanding of what we know today as rhythm. As I continue to mature through life, I start to discover that rhythm is not only confined to a time signature, whether it's 12/8 or 4/4 or any of those that we use in conducting or creating what some genres call a beat, but it's something that was alluded to earlier that each has rhythm, not just with the clap of the hand or the rhythm in which we talk or walk or dance, and if you sing, but is what we do, is the thought process of calling. And in that, everything in life, it becomes a rhythm. And if we allow it to reverberate in such positivity, we would see positive results. It brings us together. It's that rhythm that awaken you this morning and encourage you to come to this gathering, to connect. In that connection, to make that connection is also very rhythmic. And in that discovery, I started to say, my rhythm is far beyond sitting at the drums or creating a song and deciding what the rhythm will be. It is something that I found to be as a calling that allowed me to get into this rhythm, to connect the dots. Internal, I called it, in theology we call it personal formation. And in sociology we call it for social transformation. And that became the backdrop or the foundation, the second part, I should say, of the foundation of what we call today the Arts Conservatory for Teens. I started the discovery and in the reflection of what happened when I was a child and how that experience and that discovery allowed me to find something much more greater, much deeper than I could ever imagine, that takes me around the world to allow me to sit and to talk, to perform, to engage in this rhythm of discovery, to do something positive from a small town with 2 traffic lights, 2,500 population, red clay, limited opportunity, parents who loved me, parents who supported me, and realizing later that that was a privilege because every child did not have that experience, doesn't have that experience, will not have that experience. But in my discovery of my rhythm, beyond the drums, beyond the buckets, beyond the tin pans, I start to allow that within me, in that discovery, to connect with others' heartbeat, to others' desire, that were reverberating throughout and saying, help. I need to understand the path for me. I need to understand the way. And that developed into what we call our mission. Education, empowerment, enrichment. How can one be empowered? How can one embrace being enriched? How can one enrich unless that person has an experience of education far beyond the 4 walls of a school, beyond the walls of a home, if the child even has a place that that child can call home? So when I think of rhythm, I think about that which drives me, that allows me to get up in the morning, to connect with people like you, others in government, other leaders, other musicians, other creators, hear and lean in close to what they are playing and how we can bring our rhythms together to create this amazing ensemble that allows us to educate, empower, and enrich, and save and transform lives for the better. And so, think about what rhythm are you playing. I also started to think about when when I was asked to speak. You know, I was going to speak for these students one day at this high school, and I was driving my way there, going to be there a little early, and I leaned over briefly to turn the radio on, up to hear what was being played, and I missed my turn. And it delayed me a few minutes. So when I got there, and I'm going to share with you, because I think it's fitting, that I was distracted by something very small that delayed me by minutes. I start to realize from that life lesson that, as I also discovered when playing, I had to learn when I was a musician and also teaching my brothers and also teaching people today and share it with this group, that we have to be cognizant of the many distractions that can happen. Because if we aren't, we can be delayed, we can get off, and we will not accomplish that which we feel we're called to do. Sometimes distractions come in doubt, and of ourselves, comes in worry or fear or insecurities, we lose rhythm. The rhythm that we are, the rhythm that we can play, the rhythm that we can use to make a difference in our lives and others. Because I believe the greatest change that anyone can make is the change in the person's self. That's how we start changing the world. But this thing around rhythm really resonated with me because it's something that I start to understand that from as a musician that I would forget lyrics because I become distracted. I'm very sensitive. I would forget like the time in what I alluded to earlier of skipping the beat. But in order to stay on the beat, to stay on the rhythm, I have to realize I have to stay focused so that I don't skip the beat, I don't miss my turn, I am not delayed, I can accomplish, I can help someone else. Had I been distracted, we may not have helped over 13,000 students through our program and our mission. Had I been distracted or delayed, maybe the students who are on Broadway would not be there today. The students who are working behind the scenes at Netflix, the students who found hope, the students who were in gangs, who were getting referrals every day and turned to 0 referrals and graduated with honor, if I had fallen short of listening to the rhythm and being inspired in order to inspire. So I encourage all of us today to ask ourselves, what rhythm am I playing? And how am I playing that rhythm? Thank you.
Yeah, give it up. So my favorite part of a Creative Mornings, the part that I always remember, is the fun Q&A portion. I think it's great. So who out there has got questions? Who was inspired by this talk? And who wants to ask something first? Come on. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Artemis. So I wanted to know, like, whenever you get into that zone of where, like, self-doubt's creeping in, worry's creeping in, what are, like, the main things that you do to sort of ground yourself and to remind yourself, like, I don't need to be worrying about this, I don't need the self-doubt to be here?
So the question is, what do you do when the worry or doubt creeps in to our spaces? I respond this way, that we can't help who comes or what comes to the door, but we can help who we sit down and have coffee or tea with. So doubt will come, fear would come, but we have to remind ourselves, and that's the distraction, not to entertain anything that doesn't serve us well. If it doesn't serve what I feel called to do, if it causes me to skip the beat, to get off the rhythm that I am on, then I need to dismiss that immediately.
Yeah, I'm coming for you. I'm coming.
Hello, I met you earlier today.
Yes.
What about changing the rhythm? What if you are trying to do one path and the universe is just pushing you to a different rhythm? When do you decide to change the rhythm, or when the words fall and do, different things?
I think that's a great question. The question is, when do we change the rhythm? I think we change the rhythm when we feel that the beat needs to be changed, but it's with intention. Again, that's not skipping the beat. The rhythm can start here, and then we're going to switch because we feel in the development of the composition that the rhythm needs to change in order to elevate, right? And there's something that we call crescendo, a decrescendo. And so if we feel that we need to crescendo, and then needs to get louder, and the rhythm needs to reverberate louder, and that's elevation into another path, I think we should follow that. But it's always with intention, without distraction. Now, if we're wanderers, and every time you see somebody else playing another rhythm, oh, let me jump over here, and let me play that rhythm, play the rhythm, I think we need to recenter ourselves and discover what is my rhythm, and how should I play it.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Erin.
I had a question in terms of how you approach collaboration. You know, you have your own rhythm in the way that you approach life, music, business, but inevitably people are going to be on their own rhythm, right? Different time signature. And if those are clashing, you know, how are you finding synergy and synchronicity with others if you're not on the same wavelength?
Okay. Question is, how do you collaborate with folks who are in different rhythms, right? And I love to tell this story. I'm a songwriter, and part of songwriting is you bring your experience to the room. The reason I like Nashville and where I learned this is in Nashville, that some of the greatest songs aren't written singular. They're mostly written in collaboration. I think through collaboration we learned a lot, and I think part of rhythm is not saying that I am confined to a specific space or one-time signature. There is creation and innovation, and through each person's collaboration or each person's rhythm that they've discovered, there is more to be discovered, right? So in that discovery, I limit myself if I'm not open to saying, how can I take your beat and your rhythm, what you're doing here, and marry it with what I'm doing over here. Then we would discover a co-creation of something, of a new rhythm that we both are active participants of. Sometimes I think that we do get, and especially with a lot of creatives, and I am one of them, if you will, that we're so passionate about what we do, and oftentimes we have limited our growth due to not being willing to yield to the ever-evolving rhythmic experience, right? Without distraction, without skipping the beat, but allowing to be very aware of that which does resonate with us, right? To create or to co-create this new creation together. Does that answer your question? Awesome.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Chrissy. I wanted to ask you, I wrote down what you said about inspiration, be inspired to inspire others, and I wanted to ask, do you have certain things that you do to like stay inspired?
Yes. So I started to make a practice of mine early on before it seemed like it became extremely popular, is to meditate and to pray. I'm from a small town. My father's a pastor and mother, devout lady in the church, and both are educators as well. So one thing that faith, family, education, and music have been the pillars of my family. Whatever your pillars are, may didn't grow up having any structure or pillars, what you would refer to today, but now as an adult, I think is to discover what is that foundation and how can I find centering in that identity. For me, I get up. I was getting up at 4:30. Now I realize if I want to sing for a long time, I better probably get more sleep. So I'm awakened at 6 now, so I improved a little bit. And I meditate, I pray religiously to center myself because I am extremely busy. And the minute I come out of that mode, the phone is ringing, the text messaging, the emails, this, but I have to find stuff in clarity. And weekends when I'm not traveling, I do long rides on bikes just to breathe, not to try and think, because that's when creative, and then I have these epiphanies and be like, oh my God, and then I go back, because that's what keeps me, really driven and keeps my rhythm, because if we aren't rested, we will skip beat. If we aren't in that space, right, we will not have that focus that we need to have in the creative moment and how we can inspire others. Yes.
Hi, my name is Alexis. So kind of a twofold question.
Okay.
So when you're feeling like you have rhythm with a lot of different areas, do you feel like it's best to support all of those areas with a little bit, or try to focus more on one? And how do you keep your own rhythm while doing that? So like for philanthropy, we find that we want to help all of these people. And so you find these people, you find your rhythm with them, but then you overstretch yourself as well. So how do you focus yourself, and do you think it's best to give a little or focus on maybe more one-on-one?
Yeah, so I think I understand the twofold question is, one is how do I basically find balance, or how would one find balance? So, and then without stretching yourself or stretching myself. So to answer that question, my response is that one is finding the balance, right? In any time, if I can refer to songwriting or compositions, there is a balance, right, in the development of a song, or which rhythm, originate. We categorize the rhythm in that space, I should say, that we have to find balance. And I think that applies to when rhythm is taken out of that category and applied to, as I have today, that we have to find balance in doing so. For me, I work in philanthropy, and also I work in the music entertainment industry, pretty much two different areas, and I've done that, I think, fairly well. But I try to understand in this space, and I've seen even in understanding the differences, there is connectivity. I advise students or friends, or even as a consultant, sometimes clients, that there's a core and you find where the connectivity is. And I think what I have really worked on my own efforts in my own balance, and also advising others, is that there is always something, there is a thread that will connect us all. We just have to choose to discover that. And in that discovery, I think that allows us from being stretched too thin, right? And understanding when there's a start to everything and there's an ending to everything, not to continue to drag on something that doesn't need to be drug on. And I think that's how we discover that, and able to be healthy and productive and not lose ourselves in someone else's rhythm, right? And maintain in our own. And if there is a collaborative opportunity, obviously we are recreating. We're still not getting lost in theirs, is what we've created, if that makes sense, right? I got a lot of questions coming. I need some water.
I was wondering, when you were telling your story. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's me. I was wondering, when you were telling your story about growing up with your brothers and playing, making your own instruments and everything. It seems like you had a really early vision for wanting to be a performer and a musician. I was wondering, were there times when you either doubted that, or were presented, with obstacles toward that, or where you felt pushed either internally or externally away from that, and what brought you back to it?
That's a great question, because I think there are always waves of glory and waves of doubt, waves of worry, right? And yes, from 6 years old to now, there have been so many different stories. I really can do like my friend Steve Cropper and sit here and do like all day and tell you the stories just within our confined space of our family. But what keeps me motivated is calling, right? I feel, do I have moments and say, well, why should I do this, Yes, I've had those moments, and I will have more of those moments. What I try and do, to the question I answered earlier, is not sit down and entertain that thought, right? I say, I acknowledge it, because I'm also a realist, right? And I'm human. So I don't pretend that it hasn't come and nothing is knocking at the door. I say, hey, I see you doubt, I see you worry. Yeah, I'm a little frustrated right now, but you know what? Let's go get it. Bye. And that's literally how I respond. And people say, oh, how do you do that? And it's an awareness that we have to really cultivate, and I share with our students as well, because we will get a mountain of no's, right? People will not call you back. I started booking my tour every summer when I was 13 years old across North America, all the way up to Canada with my brothers. And I learned that people, and an agent, Larry McCowan, told me, he said, Alex, don't wait on them to call you. You call them back. And if they don't call you back, call them again. And I started to do that, and I did that literally. And I said, they have to change their number if they don't want me to call them. And that has happened. And I mean, as far as to Asia, to many of the islands, to all, I mean, everywhere. And I remember from our bedroom, we call it Access Corner because that was the name of our studio, because this cakewalk was set up in the corner. Anyone know what cakewalk is? It's the equivalent to Pro Tools, Logic, is what we use today to record music digitally. So we use that, and we call it Access Corner, and I wrote a song called Hold On, and then we heard it on the radio, and we felt like we had made it. Finally, from the bedroom to the radio, but that was just the beginning. But that goes to show you that if you have a desire and you remain focused, is what I share with our students today, that celebrate the great moments and push through those moments when it feels that you just can't make it, or everyone is telling you no, every door seems to be closing in your face. But just know that just after every closed door, there is a door, at least a door, that will be open. Even if it's not wide open, if it's just a little bit, kick it open and run through before they close it. Because seriously, that's what we have to do. That's what I've learned. And as far as I'm concerned, my late cousin told us when I was in the studio, 13, 14 years old. He said, you have to put your feelings in your back pocket and don't take it personal, right? One, a lot of people, if I'm working with them for the first time, they don't know me, right? And so I just understand that if they get to know me, if they allow me to get themselves to get to know me, maybe they will like me, maybe they won't. Maybe just be a great working relationship. If they don't want to be my friend, I have really good friends, right? But let's do this together and let's get it done, right? So I think that's the way we have to remind ourselves to push through different things, right?
We're going to do our last question with Dominic, but Alex is going to hang out with us. We still have a little bit of time, so if you have any follow-up questions after Dominic's, we're going to break afterwards. So Dominic, what is our question?
So our question is, good morning. You were mentioning connectivity a lot,
right?
And you mentioned how philanthropy and music, show business, very different. And we're always building on the backs of giants of what came before. So I was wondering, for you, has there been any role model or figure that somehow blended the two in a way that was like, wait, this could be done? Maybe in a way it's never been done before, but someone that was really inspiring is like, wow, you can make this work.
I don't recall, but I will say, as far as education concerned, there is one person that comes to mind immediately, because we were told, my brothers and sisters and I were told that, and we heard that, if you want to pursue music, just pursue that, pursuing education and music or whatever, it's not the thing. Our parents are educators, they're like, you better have something to fall back on. And I decided, the resilience, I said, I don't need anything to fall back on. I'll use both. If I pursue and I put my time in, I use both. And the one person that inspired us, a couple of people, but specifically as relates to education and music, which led to my philanthropy, is Dr. Bobby Jones out of Nashville. Many of you may have known him. He's a legend on the longest-running syndicated show in television. I mean, retired that, but he still is around in Nashville. He was the one that encouraged us. He had 2 earned doctoral degrees and was a television host. He taught at university, and he was the only one that we saw in the industry that was doing that. And so I think that was really that field. And then others, like later, Dr. Linda Crane, she wasn't in the industry, but she understood the arts, and she was an educator. She inspired me when I shared with her in Boston when I was there that I had this vision to do this for students and how to do it. And, and then I just took it because we come from a small place where there was limited opportunity anyway, and everything that I did, if nobody told me not to, I did it. And even if they did, they better make sure they were either my parents or somebody that I really was going to listen to. And I did it. And so it was kind of like, take chances. A lot of times we are afraid what one may call to fail. But nothing is a failure if it's helping you reach your goal. Failure is, the lack of a better word, is something that can be used as a bridge to get you from this point to the next point, right? And don't be afraid to let it go. If you're a creator of anything, if you want to start anything, start it. Don't wait, because then you have no story to tell if you don't ever start somewhere. As I say, and this is my last statement because the time is far spent, to go anywhere, you have to start somewhere. So, thank you.